60 Minutes with Angela starts right now.
Today says, quote, "We must strengthen the arm of prosecution if we don't want corruption cases as an exercise in futility," end of quote. Is that the sense that he gets from Nigeria's president's war against corruption? Well, hello and welcome to the program. I'm Angela Ajetumobi, human rights activist, politician, former senatorial aspirant, now senior advocate of Nigeria. Festus Keyamo joins me on the program today. Thank you, Mr. Keyamo, for coming on 60 Minutes with me again.
Thank you, Angela, and good to see you again.
I have been dying to say that, senior advocate of Nigeria. Congratulations again. We haven't had an interview since September when you were conferred.
Thank you so much.
Great news. All right, so let's start with the war on corruption. I was reading your quote there. You say we must strengthen the arm of prosecution if we don't want corruption cases as an exercise in futility. Is that the sense you get, that sometimes it seems futile, the whole gamut of arresting, prosecuting, going through the whole case and not seeing the kind of convictions that Nigerians want to see, convictions of what we call the big fish?
Well, I have been in the middle of this for more than a decade now, when I started assisting the Economic and Financial Crimes Commission to prosecute some cases. And it gives me a bird's eye view of what is going on in the whole gamut of criminal justice system. The impediments are so many, and if the impediments are so many, then it's important that we strengthen the arm of prosecution, investigation, gathering of evidence, so that when we face these impediments, either in the courts or with our witnesses, and in the course of prosecuting the suspects, we can be ready for the attack. I can assure you that when they say it is a war on corruption, the word has almost become a cliche, so people don't understand the full import of when they say it's a war.
Is it a real war?
It's not just a fight, it's a war, Angela. A war because it's like, something that is moving to a direction, and before you get to your destination, everything is snapping at your feet and snapping at you and trying to make sure you don't get to that destination. Because everybody, almost every segment of society benefits from corruption. So first of all, once you are fighting corruption, you are against corruption, the first thing is everybody sees you as an enemy, anywhere in this country. Everybody sees you as an enemy.
And that brings me to the point I always raise, that what is the definition of corruption? The truth is, as long as one is benefiting from it, one doesn't see it as corruption.
Absolutely.
I'll give you a typical
are just
example.
correct.
You see, when people come and visit, let's say a governor or a senator, they expect to be given something in return, transport fare, buy a recharge card. And when you ask, where do you think they are getting that money from? They say, the governor has money. It doesn't actually occur to them that the governor is not synonymous with the money that belongs to a state.
Now, there's some kind of very deep, meaning in what you have just said. when people see corruption only as when the other person is doing it.
Yes.
When I am doing it, it's smartness.
Yes.
And it's God's blessing.
Yes.
God has just blessed me.
Yes, it's your testimony.
It's your testimony.
Yes.
But but when somebody else, oh, this is corruption, it is very easy for you to attack
Yes.
those, who are in government, who are in places of authority trying to. But then it's difficult for every single Nigerian to adjudge every single Nigerian how he or she will behave if he or she also finds himself in positions of authority.
Yes.
So the general feeling in Nigeria is that it is only corruption when the other person is involved. It's just to confirm what you are saying.
Yes.
But when I'm involved, it's like, oh well, this is God's blessing.
Yeah.
So that's the basic problem we are facing. The basic problem we are facing, therefore, is the problem of making sure that we are all on the same page when it comes to the fight against corruption.
Yes.
In other words, whether it affects my brother or my sister, or we should not ethnicize corruption. We should not, let me borrow brotherlize corruption, sisterlize corruption on the lighter side. Religionize corruption, But that's it. We should be on the same page when it comes to fighting corruption. And it is a war to get everybody on the same page. You see people who at times they rationalize even the attack against the anti-corruption agencies. They rationalize it in terms of either human rights, they rationalize it in terms of due process.
Yes.
They manufacture due process from somewhere.
What would you say to those who think that, for instance, this war in the Buhari administration is one-sided? I keep hearing, why is he only going after the opposition?
Well, the argument will continue on and on, because even whatever I say here will be seen as also very biased. Okay? So if we want to start that argument today, it won't end.
Yes.
Because they will keep saying, what about this? What about that? What about that? The simple argument, and the simple response, and I think is the most reasonable response we can give to everybody, is that, okay, then, in that case, just keep gathering your evidence. Whoever we have caught now, we have caught. Let's deal with people we have caught now. Now, for those people you perceive that they are doing something, work hard, take over from this government and deal with those people. Because we can't end the argument. And it is extremely immoral, Angela, to now say, well, leave the people you have arrested, leave the people you have indicted, leave the people you have caught with their hands in the till, leave them alone unless you go after some imaginary thieves too, you think are hanging somewhere, until you get everybody. Don't deal with anybody.
Federal character.
That's extremely immoral. It is untenable that until everybody you perceive is guilty of one thing or the other, perception, until that happens, do not prosecute anybody.
So what would you say? How would you rate President Buhari's war against corruption? What do you think can be done to make it more successful?
I think that it is a journey that we have started. We are still far away from destination. So in terms of the war against corruption, we are not there yet. Nobody will sit down here and say, we are there.
Yes.
But definitely we have left where we were with the last regime. I mean, some of us fought, some of us toiled, and openly, because we couldn't stomach it again. And made sure that we overthrew the old order. We just wanted a change and see how things will happen. The change is not the ideal type of change we all wanted and we prayed for. But however, we cannot deny that we have left where we were. Because you see what, Angela? We have now raised the bar regarding the anti-corruption crusade. Nobody will deny that. Before, we are not even talking about it at all. But now, it is the first on the agenda. So the regime has managed to remove it from the very bottom of public discourse to the very top of public, and that is good enough. Let us keep talking about. Let there be a sense of shame now in government. You will continue to find, people, thieves in quotes. Those who have not been indicted, but those who their hands have been caught in the till. That's what I mean by thieves. You will keep finding them in government. Like the grass cutter thing with the the former SSG, Secretary of Federal, SGF. And then the Ikoyi cash thing, and all kinds of things, and even more within this government. I can assure you. So nobody is going to come down here and say there are saints in this government. We have so many people in this government. Corruption should be going on now. Now, that is where the story begins. How does the government of the day react? This is how you make your choices between one government and the other government. So it's not that another government comes tomorrow, the same thing will happen. The third one, the fourth one, the fifth one. So nobody will come and campaign to say, when I come into government,
yes,
you will not hear of any story about corruption.
It's on the agenda now.
Yes, the real story is, how does the government of the day react when issues like this arise? In the past,
yes,
we used to see that there was even no reaction at all. You will scream from morning till evening. What you hear was, I don't give a damn. And there was a perception, don't forget that, the perception of the leadership of the country in terms of its anti-corruption posture is extremely important for the whole thing to, trickle down the strata of society. It's extremely important. Let me tell you why. You cannot approach anybody now in government, whether you are bidding for contracts or doing something, and you say that, you need to put 100 million on top. This is Oga's own. This is Madam's own. This is, no, that's even, PAPSEC is not, I'm talking of the leadership.
Okay.
I'm talking of leadership. At the height. You cannot, whether I'm not God.
Yes.
So whether it is true or false, I don't know. But there's a perception that it can never be. That, this is the president's own. First lady.
Course, yes.
First lady, let me use the normal language. Yeah. First lady gets your own inside this. Vice president gets your own inside this.
Yes.
So there's a markup of 500 million on this contract.
Yes.
Anybody you tell now, the person will say, wait a minute, are you crazy?
They will even think you're setting them up.
Yeah, because there's a perception, even an international perception, not even local.
Yes.
There is an international perception that this leadership we have now will not engage in that. So you understand me?
Yes.
In the past, it was the order of the day. To even make an appointment to see somebody, one first person,
yes,
you say you will pay some dollars, you will pay some this. Now, like I say, I'm not God too.
Yes.
I can't sit down here and say whether it was true or false, but it was prevalent, except we are not in Nigeria at all. It was prevalent to say, Oga's own is inside this contract, First Lady's own is inside this contract, this person's own, in times past.
Yes.
Now, that is what you don't want to hear in terms of leadership in the country. Because once that happens, like you saw now with all the revelations coming out, all kinds of rubbish will happen down the strata. People were just running amok. Yes. In fact, there was a competition with the last government as to who was going to outsteal the other. With what is coming out now, with all the recoveries
with
that we're making. The recoveries we are making now, they are not stories. We are seeing houses being seized. We are seeing cash being recovered. That was how reckless the government was in running the affairs of the country. Now, the point, therefore, is that with this government, with the way they reacted to MENA, you can see there was a sense of shame.
Yes, but don't you think that the issue of MENA has rocked the integrity
of
this administration?
Absolutely, but they reacted. This is this is how you assess.
Yes.
Some people feel that it is very fashionable, or it's better for us to sit on the fence, some of us, are not to be decisive about our assessment of government. Yes. I'm sorry, this is not a time to sit on the fence. I have said this in another forum before. If we are not careful, we will go back to where we are coming from. As it is today, there are only two forces available in this country to take over power. There's no third force. I wish there was a third force.
Who are the two forces?
The APC and the PDP. There is no difference in terms of the politicians crossing from one to the other, I can assure you. Every one of them down the strata are the same. Today you say PDP is APC, man has crossed over. So there is no difference. The difference is the leadership that this government provides. So I am not going to come here to say APC is better than PDP.
Yes.
It's rubbish. Anybody telling you that is
You're
rubbish.
Going with the individual.
I'm going with the leadership that we find ourselves, that we have now in this country. The leadership and the perception and the determination of the leadership when it comes to the anti-corruption war.
Yes.
I have been with the EFCC prosecuting for more than 10 years.
What's the difference now?
Let me tell you the difference now. That's where I'm coming to. In the past chairman of EFCC will not tell you this, but I'm sorry, I will say it. They may not be in a position to say it. Why some of them were perceived as not performing well, or some were it's just simply the mandate your boss gives you. The effectiveness or non-effectiveness of the anti-corruption war is the attitude of the president. There's no other explanation to it.
You second guess him.
It's not even second guess. He tells you directly what to do. In the past, you hear every day one call or the other from the villa. I can tell you this openly. I'm saying it in front of camera. Oga is not happy with that investigation. KIV, keep in view. Oga is not happy with that investigation. All kinds of characters from the villa. Whether secretary to this, whether personal PA, whether this and all that. And then we say, okay, no problem. Please get the file. Oh guys, political interference was killing the commission.
Are you serious?
I'm telling you openly. The difference now is that those two gentlemen there,
yes,
the president and the vice president, those two gentlemen, they will never interfere in the work of the EA. That is why you can see a man that is so passionate, so aggressive regarding the work, Magu.
Yeah.
Magu has just found his soulmates in the leadership of the country.
yes.
Magu has found his soulmate, and that's why you can see that they have staved off all pressures to remove him. So if you go and tell Magu today,
Yes.
there's a call from there that somebody, you say, I want to hear from the president and the vice president. I want to hear from my Oga.
They must tell me directly.
Let them tell me directly, and they will never tell him. And that is why the war is working now. There's a perception about the National Assembly, about its pro-corruption stance, about the fact that they are not fighting, they are not aiding the war against corruption and all that. I may have my personal views about that. I may not be as strong as that.
Yeah.
But there's a perception. I know in government, perception is very important. Now, if there's this perception, and then you see all of them against one man, Magu, that he must go. If you ask me, Angela, that is a recommendation of Magu. They are recommending him to the president. And that is my worry about what is going on. And then they should know that every day that they say that, the president is having more confidence in Magu. Because if they continue, especially with the perception
Yes.
that we have about them, and as past assemblies before, past assemblies have interfered with the work of the EFCC, I can tell you that there have been massive interference before. And this man has decided to have his own mind.
Yes.
The more they oppose him, the more they recommend him to the president. That's my worry about what is going on, because it shows that Magu is ready to stand up to political forces. Except his boss, the man who can remove him from office, tells him, don't do this. And the man will never tell him, don't do this. This is where we find ourselves with Magu.
So are you saying that the president is not pushing Magu in any direction whatsoever? Magu does his work by himself?
If they even tell you in your sleep,
Yes.
that President Buhari called Magu to say stop one corruption probe, will you believe it? So Magu is shining, Magu is working, Magu is effective just simply because his boss has allowed him to work. I can assure you that all the different chairmen of the EFCC in the past, they have all had the passion regarding the fight against corruption. All of them.
You serious?
I can assure you from even Nuhu Ribadu down, all of them. The problem has always been the body language and the attitude of the president to that war against corruption. So put it in one single sentence.
Yes.
For you,
Yes.
the effectiveness or the non-effectiveness of the war against corruption depends on the attitude of the president of the day of the country.
Okay,
to
we'll
the war.
we'll take our first break now. When we come back, I want to take it from the point, what you just said now, and relating it to President Trump and the former FBI boss, James Comey. So join us again after the break. Welcome back. If you've just joined us, it's 60 Minutes with me, Angela Ajetomobi. On my hot seat today, Senior Advocate of Nigeria, Festus Keyamo. I want to bring in the analogy in the United States, President Donald Trump versus James Comey, the FBI boss at the time, and the way Comey said, you know, the president was nudging him in a certain direction. I'm trying to put myself in the position of the chairman of an anti-corruption body here. when the president nudges you in a certain direction, or let's say the leadership of the administration, what do you do? Can you come out to blow the whistle?
No, you can't even continue, in the opposite direction.
Once they tell you that.
Yes, they won't tell you openly, That's why we talk about body language and the attitude of the president, because that's the president that has the powers to remove you. Donald Trump finally removed him from office.
Yes.
And they will always find some reasons other than what they are telling you to do or not to do to remove you. I'll give you an example. There was a past chairman of EFCC and the past president of this country, when they declared a party member wanted,
yes,
an ex-governor for massive fraud.
A member of the ruling party at that time.
Declared him wanted for massive fraud and all that when he was as ex-governor. He was on the run, out of the country, and they really wanted him to come and answer some, questions.
Yes.
And then the president summoned the chairman of EFCC, to the villa.
Yes.
And because I was very close to the leadership of the EFCC, all of this were on the table. And we were already working with the prosecutor. I was the prosecutor of that, so I knew what was going on.
Yes.
So I was already guiding the, investigators as to statements to take and statements not to take. And then, the chairman came one day from the villa and said, look, we have to stop, and then bring the file and, keep it in view. Just keep the file, don't worry. We'll start sometime again. What happened? And, the chairman said, the president just called the chairman and said, how now? We heard you want somebody, you are declaring somebody wanted. The president was not looking at the chairman.
No eye contact.
No eye contact. And said, yes, sir, this is the executive brief of what happened and all that. He didn't even bother to look at the executive brief. He said, go and look at that case very well. They are only coming here to say it's persecution and all that, but make sure you look at it very well. Just look at it to make sure people don't accuse us of persecuting people up and down and all that. I hope you understand. Just look at it very well. I said, I'll finish with you. The chairman got the message. So that is the problem. That's what we are talking about. People who don't have insight into what is going on.
Yes.
They don't have any idea at all what the difference in the leadership and the attitude to the war against corruption is. So I can tell you that confidently because I have some insight into what the past leadership did, what the present leadership is doing. I have some insight. And it is my country and I will not keep quiet. I will not sit on the fence. There are a number of people who have run to the villa in the last 2 years. Number of people who run to the president and the vice president for one help or the other. They tell you, I'm sorry. Just go and answer the allegations. You don't even get to that point.
Where you can even
anybody that calls on behalf of the president and the president gets to hear you call on behalf of him, that person gets fired. So that is why the commission is working now. Files that have gathered us. There are people we are prosecuting now who investigation started in 2010, 2011.
Yes.
Suspended, started again after 2015, and then we're in court now.
But why do we need special courts? I'm seeing this setting up of special courts for corruption. Is it not the same laws that we're applying? We have special fraud unit, we have ICPC, EFCC, we have the police, and they're all working with certain laws. What will special corruption court bring to the table that will make things better or faster or more effective?
Well, it's just simply that it reduces the cost list. They give attention only to corruption cases so that they can be faster and faster. Because, you see, it's not only corruption cases that suffer this fate of delays in administration of justice.
Yes.
All cases, whether matrimonial cases, civil cases, labor cases, it's an entire Nigerian problem. But because corruption is the focal point of this government and even the entire world now,
yes.
When they look at Nigeria, they want to see how we're fighting corruption. That is why we need to give it special treatment. But I can tell you that we need to go beyond special courts. We need the special courts.
Yes.
But one more thing we must add to the special courts. Is electronic recording. This is the bane of the judiciary. There's no need to talk left and right.
When you say electronic recording,
the judges are still recording in longhand.
With biro?
Biro, morning till evening. It's in this age of technological development. Angela, in 2017,
we don't have stenographers?
They tried it in Lagos at the point for 1 or 2 courts, and that was why we were fast with Bode George and co. Remember? It took just 2 years because that particular court then was, equipped. So they tried it with 1, 2, 3 courts at that time, and then it was banned. It was really good.
Yes.
You know, we were just rushing through trials. We could take 3-5 witnesses in a day with cross-examination. But with longhand, you can hardly barely take 2 witnesses in one day. Not even one at times.
Why did we then continue that
It's
system?
the problem of funding of the judiciary. They need to fund these courts. Because you must have trained stenographers, you must have standby 24 hours or 12 hours as the case may be.
Yes.
Maybe 9 to 9 in the evening.
Yes.
You know, the generators will be working. You have a number of backroom staff who can transcribe immediately so that you can get the CTC of the proceedings in less than 1 day. After they finish, you can now, call the recording certified true copy.
Yes.
Because everything you record, you must quickly transcribe and reproduce. And then the judge will go through, or some special people, assistants will go through to make sure that they comply or they are in tune
with what was actually said in the court.
And then, the copies come out, the certified copies come out. You need all this backroom staff and help to be assisting the judges. Where's the funding for that? Where's the assistance, to the judiciary? That's the problem. Without that, we are going nowhere. The special courts are going to fall into the same problem too. There are 3 things we asked for, in those days. As prosecutors, when we saw the problem, we asked for 3 things. 2 have been provided.
What are the 2?
The Administration of Criminal Justice Act have been provided. No stay of proceedings again.
Anymore.
The Supreme Court has confirmed that you cannot stay criminal trials anywhere in this country now because you have one interlocutory appeal pending. So you say,
what about those perpetual junctions like the type Peter Odili had?
Well, they still have to start dealing with those judges. They still have to deal with those judges because you cannot grant perpetual injunction against investigation and prosecution. You cannot. If the person feels very strongly about his innocence, just go through the criminal process and prove your innocence. The problem in these countries are some big men, because they are big men, they feel slighted to even go and make a statement before the police or the EFCC or law enforcement agent. You see a big man saying, how can I go and make a statement? How? Me? It's the mentality of the Nigerian
will they make the statement if they come to the house to meet them?
Is the house the proper venue to take a statement? That's a problem. And that is why you can see most of these people crying harassment in terms of the anti-corruption war. So you want to fight corruption without harassing some people? It can happen. And permit me the language, like they say in America, without kicking some butts. You can't fight corruption without kicking some butts. You have to kick some butts. So that's the problem. You need to fund the judiciary. Without funding the judiciary, it's not going nowhere. We asked for the Administration of Criminal Justice Act. We asked for special courts. And then the last thing that has not been provided, that's what we are waiting for. And then we are ready to go. Electronic record in all the courts, especially with the anti-corruption courts, the courts trying corruption cases. Let us start with them before we go to other normal courts. We need them.
And you've commended the whistleblower policy. I'm trying to look at it from both sides. Yes, it may have added to the success of the war on corruption. People are coming forward now. But is it not open to even more abuse? For instance, can't we compromise when the whistleblower is supposed to collect the money? You and I know about the Nigerian factor where they tell you, sign that you received 2 million, but only 600,000 actually gets into your hands. How do we guard against these sort of things? And we've seen now the whistleblower, as far as the Ikoyi gate is concerned, saying, I haven't received anything, and he's insinuating that they want to declare him as somebody with mental illness and not capable of handling such sums of money.
Everything in Nigeria is open to abuse. We can't just sit down here and say it's only the whistleblower's policy and the payments arising from it that would be open to abuse. Everything in Nigeria, contracts, payment for contract, payment for everything,
You said
at times, somebody will be owing you 20 million naira, as small as that, in the context of government business, it's small. Government is owing you for the past 10 years. Yes, we have as much as long time, and then they spend that kind of money overnight in drinks and all that. The government, they will call you, say, just sign for 5 million naira full and final payment, or 3 million naira full and final payment of that money, and you sign for
forfeit the rest.
And forfeit the rest, or they record the 10 million, and they tell you that, look, for you to get this 10 million, you have to forfeit 7, or so all of us, but you get 3 million out of it, and you are browbeating, you are tired, you are you are already fagged out and stressed with all the process of trying to get your money. You just accept and say, let me move on my life.
Yes.
It happens every day. It happens every day in this country. So the whistleblower policy, yes, can be subject to that kind of abuse too, depending on the agency and the leadership of the agency involved. But not with the present EFCC.
Yes.
Not with Mago.
That brings me to the question of the BVN, bank verification number. Where do you stand on this argument of forfeiting sums of money? I'm thinking of a situation where a person is, say, in Australia, in a coma for the last 9 months or 12 months, and doesn't know that there's anything called BVN. Is it right that that person's money should be forfeited to government because he or she doesn't have BVN?
Let me just cut you short here.
Yes.
Those people who are bringing these examples that are too remote, they are the real thieves. And let's say the way it is. There's 2 trillion naira locked down in the banks, and the government has seen it in their books. 2 trillion naira that people are not willing to come out, they are not touching, they are waiting, they are just waiting. Angela,
for this administration to go.
They are waiting, they can't wait. They are those who have stolen our patrimony, common patrimony. They can't wait for this president to go. They can't wait. They are the ones trying to change the narrative, about the anti-corruption crusade.
Yes.
They can't wait. The money is there. They can't access it. If they come, they'll catch them.
Yes.
So they are waiting. So now the government is smarter than they are and saying, look, if you don't come with a particular time, come and explain. The government is not saying.
Okay, so if you have problems with your BVN, I have problems with my date of birth.
Yeah, just come
I don't
out.
fall into that category.
No. They have given a moratorium. Come and regularize. Nobody is saying come out, and if individual cases will be looked at.
Yes.
Come out, and they are the ones pushing the dead people, coma people in front. And the thieves are hiding behind people who call that comma. Come out and say that you're. So, look, listen. Anything regarding the war against corruption, I support it 100%. The Central Bank of Nigeria has powers under the law to make these regulations. These are regulations. And the regulations are backed by law. And once they are backed by law, they are a form of subsidiary legislation. Okay. And they have a right to do so. Those people who are hiding under the guise of human rights.
Yes, I'm saying that the CBN has no rights to do that.
Human rights. They are supporting thieves, corrupt people. This is the best decision, the most clever decision on the whistleblower policy that this government is taking. The funds will be seized and confiscated, and I support it. Any individual cases, come out. Come out. They will be looked at.
Yes.
Even the government is not God. Somebody comes out later and said, I was in coma. 10 years later, 5 years later, I was in coma. Sincerely, look at all my medical records. Yes. And they trace the trail of the funds, and they say it's legitimate
income.
What stops a National Assembly tomorrow from passing a legislation to say these people are excluded?
Yes.
What stops them? But let the funds be seized first. Stories.
Join us again after the break. Welcome back. My concluding moments now with Festus Keyamo, Senior Advocate of Nigeria. We went away on that break laughing, but it is a serious matter.
Yes, just like you had nameless people, nameless people to properties. You have nameless people to accounts, bank accounts with trillions of naira, Angela. Is that a normal society? And you know that too much unidentified funds is a problem for the security of a country. Do you know that? It is a security issue. When you cannot trace the owners, the genesis, the trailer, it is a security problem. Why do you think they made all these money laundering laws around the world?
All over the world.
It is because of Al Qaeda and all these groups then. They were moving funds, across the world. To topple governments and terrorize governments and make sure the world is not a free world. I tweeted some time ago, it's only in Nigeria you see a property worth 37.5 billion in Banana Island, Ikoyi flat, other property seized all over the country.
Yes.
And they make interim orders. Come out if you own this. Come and tell us, explain. We're not saying you're a thief. Just come out and explain. We cannot trace anybody's name to this property.
Yes.
At some point when they are trailing, the trail will go
just
cold.
Dead.
Yes, dead, because you will now track it to a company.
And it's a shell company.
It's a shell company. Fake name, fake everything, with connivance of bank officials. That's why these banks are the greatest criminals at times. The thing will grow cold, and then nobody will come out for 37.5 billion. It can only happen in Nigeria. And then you now see some people born of women, human beings,
Yes.
coming out to defend and to antagonize the government's effort to recover this type of properties, shouting human rights. It's the same principle that applies to the BVN too. If you are the owners of these monies, we can't trace. We have been looking for the owners through the BVN. We can't. If you are the owners, come out. You mean 2 trillion naira people are in coma? 2 trillion in coma? They have to go and wake them up.
Let's talk about this National Assembly resolutions. I always wanted to ask you that. The National Assembly always seems angry that its resolutions are ignored by the executive. Remember when the Senate gave a resolution saying the acting president should get rid of Magu, for instance. So what is the value of a resolution by the Senate outside the Senate?
It's just to stir up public debate, nothing more. It doesn't have any other value. Stir up. They say if you look at the provision of the Constitution, it's just to expose corruption. That's what the provision says. It said the investigation is only for the purpose of exposing corruption.
Yes.
That's all. Let me tell you this. The National Assembly cannot take over the functions of the executive.
Does it look like
the
that
problem
sometimes?
we are having is that they are overshooting their oversight functions. The problem is that these committees are taking over these MDAs, ministries, departments, and agencies. They are taking them over. Imagine a committee of the National Assembly will just call someone, the head of an agency, and say, give us a report on how you want to do this and how you want to. Is that your function? Give us a report on how you want to go forward. Yeah. Going forward, how you want to now run this agency, or some leakages happening there. Come and tell us. It's not futuristic. Your duty is not to look at futuristic. That's the duty of the executive.
Yes.
Your duty is to look at what has happened.
Yes.
And when you look at what has happened, you don't even have to project. Don't project, just expose it.
Yes.
Your powers does not go beyond, okay, now give us a template.
For what you want to do in future.
In future, how you want to, and then reorganize this agency, we want to reorganize it for you. And then in so doing, they now bring their own private companies, bring their own private people to now virtually choke those agencies. And those people too, because maybe they don't have proper legal guidance, or they're afraid, or maybe their hands are not clean too. You see them shaking to these committees. Somebody got to stand up to them. Somebody has to stand up to these agencies. You see them writing to private companies. They don't have powers over private companies.
Really?
Yes! Writing to private companies, questioning them. Just because maybe a government agency has powers, has supervisory powers over those private companies.
Yes.
You're now in the guise of that, as if you are probing those private companies. Those private companies can only be invited as witnesses. The only power you have to probe is to probe a government agency, a public
yes.
body. And then in the course of probing that public, you can now invite private people to come and be witnesses.
Yes.
And those people are bound to appear. But you cannot invite private people as subject of inquiries. They cannot be the subject of inquiry.
So when somebody writes a petition to the National Assembly saying, I was fired from my job in a private company.
They don't have no powers to do so. They don't have. So you now have a National Assembly, either they are not properly guided.
Yes.
Or they are just deliberately, looking for soft spots to pick money.
Extra work to do.
Not extra work, extra where to pick money. Just extra, places to pick money.
Yes.
Because really, if you know how they function, and I said it with all respect, because
yes.
It's my country, I must talk about it. OBJ has been crying every day about this issue. They just use these committees, it's their major conduit pipe to just bleed the nation. It's blackmail going on with most of these committees. It's nothing but blackmail. I don't want to wrap it in any euphemism. It's blackmail. Somebody's got to stop this.
I was speaking with Abia State Senator Eyinaya Abaribe recently. I was asking him about that incident where the acting president, then Professor Yemi Osinbajo, had to briefly go to the UK, and Senator Abaribe stood up in the Senate saying he was just trying to raise the issue, but made a comment about the Senate president should be the legitimate acting president now that there is a lacuna. So, I asked him, why did you come up with that? We said, well, he was trying to push the narrative. We know that in the time of late President Yar'Adua, it was when he fell ill, we saw that there was a loophole, there was a vacuum in section 145 of the Constitution. So he said to me, what happens if the acting president also falls ill and has to go away? Does our Constitution make any provision
Let me
for that?
start with a rhetoric question too.
Yes.
What happens if the Senate president falls sick? What then happens? If that provision is made,
Yes.
what then happens? You now say the speaker. What then happens if the speaker falls ill? What then happens? So the point I'm making by that rhetoric question is that
Yes.
the Constitution cannot cover
Everything.
every eventuality. We must accept that it has to stop at some point.
Yes.
And after that point, then we can invoke the doctrine of necessity when that situation arises. But we cannot project in every situation that this and this and this will happen. Constitution cannot anticipate every single human situation that will arise. That's why you have the courts there to interpret,
Yes.
these provisions at times. And if those situations arise, then the courts are there to interpret the Constitution and say what is the best way forward in terms of taking the whole provisions of the Constitution together. Right. But we cannot have a whole book that's as big as fat as to ground to the ceiling of this house,
Yes.
just because we want to cover every single situation. Human beings cannot. We cannot cover every single eventuality that can arise. We have to stop at the point. I think stopping at this point when you say, well, the president is sick, the vice president takes over, and all that acts in the stead of the president, I think is enough at this point.
On the matter of restructuring, you've said restructuring will take more time and more negotiation, more deliberation, and should be more inclusive than the National Assembly. End of quote. Does the National Assembly not represent us? We have 360 members of the House, 109, that's about 469 altogether. Can't they legislate restructuring into the law?
Well, ideally, by going by the provisions of the Constitution now, especially Section 9,
Yes.
we cannot achieve restructuring without going back to the National Assembly, because eventually the end product of any debate about restructuring should be an amendment to the Constitution or a brand new Constitution.
Yes.
And how do you do that now? You cannot achieve a brand new Constitution outside Section 9.
Yes.
Section 9 talks about the process of amending.
Of doing that.
So anything outside Section 9 is either a revolution or a military coup, which nobody wants to entertain. Those are two situations that are totally unacceptable as it is now. So therefore, we need to call the National Assembly, sit them down and say, look, listen, make a provision for referendum. There's no provision for a referendum in the Constitution. From Section 1 to the last section, this Constitution is silent on a referendum. So there's no way you can take the question to a people now to say, so that they will now know what the people really want on any issue.
Yes. So what was the value of the Constitutional Conference of 2014?
It was useless. I said that from the beginning. No matter how you look at it, it was useless. I said it and I'm saying it again. That conference was just a political gathering. Look, I'm telling you, some of my friends who were there were sincere. They really wanted to discuss.
Yes.
They really wanted the best for the country. But to the political leadership then,
yes,
it was just a gathering for second term. That was all. He wanted to just gather people and put them on the platform for second term and appear as if he was very genuinely concerned. Because really, how did he hope to go on with that proposal without carrying the National Assembly along, without that document going back to the National Assembly? And the National Assembly was cut off from the process. At that point when they were doing the Georgia and all that, the National Assembly was also carrying out a joint committee on Constitution. In fact, they were going around the country at that same time.
They were going round.
Different from what was going on, the jamboree that was going on there. It was so laughable at the end of the day. So, really, how are they bound? How would they be bound by that document? So if it goes back to the National Assembly now, it's going to go back as an executive bill because the executive organized it,
Yes.
and then we now look at it again, debate it, and it's going to be like subject to the normal constitutional.
24 houses of assembly.
And then they now remove and replace and remove and replace. What difference would that be from what they are doing now?
Yes.
No difference.
What about through the judiciary?
But then you can see that you cannot restructure. Restructuring will go beyond this National Assembly, because the National Assembly as constituted may not really be truly representative of all the shades of opinions and issues that we need to look at.
Yes.
But before we can do that, we need a situation where we bring a provision as regarding referendum into the Constitution, so that when we go to a referendum, the provision will be that as we are coming out of referendum,
Yeah.
the National Assembly is bound by the results of the referendum, and all they need to do is just to pass it into law.
Where do you stand on the matter of Biafra now? The independent people of Biafra, that organization has been proscribed. There's a stalemate as far as I know. We don't know where the leader is. What is your opinion on that whole matter?
Let me say, first of all, as a background to answering you, is that I have represented, with all sense of modesty, more separatist groups. I have been their counsel for years, more than any other person,
Yes.
living or dead in this country.
In Nigeria, yes. You represented MASOB?
MASOB for years. I've been the lawyer to BIM, the Biafra Independent Movement. Don't forget, I also defended Asari Dokubo.
Yes.
And I brought him out of jail. I defended Wazurike. I brought him out of jail. I was part of the Ken Sarewa defense at that time.
At the time.
They were, fighting for the Ogoni freedom. Even as a young lawyer then, even, with Ganifa Emi too. I was also lawyer to Charles Oka. I was also part of the council to Henry Oka. All of these separatist movements, all of them. That's why I said, I believe firmly in the right to self-determination. Let me say that's a general principle first. But not the type of self-determination that IPOB started to campaign for. That is where I disagreed with them, their style and methodology.
Yes. What do you mean by self-determination?
Self-determination is simply that you have a right to campaign, to say, I want my people, I want self-government. We want to determine our own future, we want to chart our own course. It may be either in terms of a pure confederation.
Yes.
It may be in terms of pure secession. It may be, but self-determination has different, like the Catalonians and the people in Morocco and different parts of the world, so, and South Sudan.
Yes.
There are different levels of campaigns. People are campaigning. Some are partial, some are outright, but it's self-determination in the sense that you now have a right, either within a full union or partially or fully, to say, I want to elect my own leaders. We want to run our own affairs. We want to determine what we use our revenue to do. You don't come as federal government and come and determine which roads you want to repair in the east.
Yes. That's
not self-determination. We as Easterners should sit down and say, we have this revenue from coal and cocoa, so we want to do the Enugu and Abia road first. We determine as a region. The Abuja will not determine for us.
Yes.
It's self-determination. And everything. We want to build schools first. We want to use our money to do trade alone. We want to determine our future ourselves. That kind of thing. So a far level of autonomy in terms of government and running our affairs.
Yes.
That's self-determination. Not to be subsumed in the whole, government of a whole bigger union.
Yes.
Now, I believe in that. Now, in the process of campaigning for self-determination, you don't destroy other tribes. You don't seek for the destruction of other tribes. You don't call them names. You don't, take them, as animals. My mom is Yoruba, for example. And IPOB comes and says all Yorubas are goats. They are pigs, they are dogs, and you call them names, and you want to get my support? You're not going to get my support.
Yes.
Because I'm partly Yoruba. You're not going to get my support. You don't go around, roads, public places with cutlasses and all that looking for houses. I say, and you saw those clips. Any house like this boss come down, want to kill you. Any Fulani come down, want to kill you. What if there's a reaction from the north? So the decision the federal government took in terms of the Python dance and to ban them and to descend heavily on them was the best decision this government has ever taken since 2015. The best decision.
Those who say that the government in doing that, they made him a hero.
You see, the problem is that we have an opposition that are cowards. Let me say the way it is. An opposition who do not want to come out openly to say we want to oppose his government, oppose his policy and take over. All they are doing is hiding behind anybody that is giving the government problem. They don't believe in IPOB.
Yes.
But once the IPOB is giving hit to the government, they hide behind IPOB.
They like it.
They like IPOB. Once it is any other issue, they hide behind that issue. Issues they don't believe in. I have a former minister in this country who talks from both sides of the mouth, who was extremely against the Igbos before, who was their greatest, critic before. Yeah. At the point, he told them to leave Lagos. That Lagos is not their land. He was now the greatest supporter of IPOB at this time around. Because Festus Keyamo is in opposition and IPOB is giving problems to the government of the day.
Yes.
So that is cowardice. And that's not patriotism. As patriots, you should stand up to say, look, I oppose the government of the day, but this threatens our unity. And you even have a serving governor supporting and going to court to support IPOB. A certain serving opposition governor doing that. How dare you do that? That is cowardice. That's unpatriotism. You want to pull down your country and the unity of the country because your hatred for the government of the day? That is not how to do opposition. And that is why the government had to react to, because they have a duty, they have a duty to also preserve the unity of this country. Yes. And they had to take decisive action. Those people who were supporting them, why did they go now and go and stand in front of Python dance? They left them to their fate. They stayed in their houses in Lagos and Abuja, Facebooking and tweeting to support them. They should have gone there now to stand on top front of Python dance. It's easy to support them. And that was what carried this young boy away, Nnamdi Kanu. He didn't know where to stop. He didn't know where to change tactics.
He didn't know where to draw the line.
He was carrying his people on a destination to nowhere. You neither had the capacity, the wherewithal, or anything. Let me tell you this. The government acted with hindsight. 1967, the war started like this, with small conflicts like that. And at that time, they started like by police action.
Yes.
If you look at the history, they did not send in soldiers. They said, well, it was civil insurrection. So they sent in the police. And before they knew it, the police could not cope. And then before they knew it, it was a full-blown war. So this time, they didn't want to see it as a civil disobedience. They saw it as a threat to the unity of this country. They sent in the army, and it was constitutional, it was legal. The president has powers to deploy the army to even quell civil unrest. That's what the constitution says. He has powers to deploy. And the Armed Forces Act.
Yes.
That he has powers to deploy to even quell civil unrest. He deployed the army. He dealt with it decisively. He nipped it in the bud because he was acting with hindsight.
Yes.
Most of people were not around when they fought the war. They fought the war. If the war starts, me and you will not sit down here.
Yes.
I did the case of Asari Dokubo, the one they are quoting up and down now. So nobody can tell me about law on this issue. I lost at the Supreme Court, but I took that case to the Supreme Court, where the Supreme Court told me in a landmark judgment,
yes,
they told me to my face, Mr. Keyamo, they said, once national security is threatened, human rights are suspended.
Once
that's what they told me.
National
security is threatened,
yes,
human rights are suspended. That's what they told me to my face. In the case of Asari Dokubo, I pursued that case with passion. Nobody has passion on this issue more than myself. So all these E-rats talking nonsense on the overnight lawyers on the Facebook. I look at these things, I laugh at times. I don't reply them. I just laugh. So they should be doing more. In fact, on that reptile dance you come, they start another thing again. Now, I saw a publication.
Vote and die.
People are not seeing that now. The opposition, they are not seeing that now to caution them. They say vote and die. They are threatening to keep people. Why another reptile dances now? You will now say human rights. But they are threatening to kill people who want to go and vote. And you think the government should fold its hand? On that reptile will dance again.
Always a delight to have you on the program.
Bless you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
And thank you for watching. I'm Angela Ajetomobi.